we're going to continue with the program that started last night. And this program is called Living a Life That Matters. And we are very happy to welcome again Roshie Bernie Glassman and Roshie Eve, Mion and Marco. Let's welcome them.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So let's go back to Hanukkah for a minute. So there's a historical story that goes with this, of course. And that story is in the time of the Greeks, after Alexander conquered much of the known world at the time. After he died, the Greek authorities wanted all the various territories they administered to worship the Greek gods. And that included what was then Israel. So they brought these, what Jews considered idols, Greek gods, statues of Greek gods, Zeus and so on, to the various places and asked people to bow and worship them. And they came to a certain town whose name I forgot, and they brought this big statue of Zeus and asked the Jews to worship and bow. And there was a family of Hashmonaim, or the Hasmonean family, I can't remember names, Matityahu, and had 5 sons, and they refused to bow. And that was the beginning of an insurrection against bowing to the Greek gods. And so there was a whole battle after battle that was fought by a very small group of Jews against a much larger Greek army. And finally they were able to reconquer Jerusalem, where the temple was. But when they came to the temple, it was the temple had a menorah just like that one, only a lot fancier and bigger. And of course the candles there were oil candles. And it was supposed to be very, very pure oil. And to their chagrin, they found just a little bit of oil, pure oil left, just enough they hoped to light maybe 1 candle for one day. The menorah had to be lit up the entire time, but there was no more pure oil because the oil had been used in the worship of the Greek gods. And so they poured that oil thinking it would just flicker off after a while, but it didn't. It lasted for 8 days. A tiny, tiny amount of pure oil lasted for 8 days. And that was the miracle of Hanukkah, though in many ways it's much bigger than that. And that's why those 8 candles are lit, 1 more candle every single day to commemorate that event. So this, what occurs to me, Bernie?
No, what?
Everybody has these ideas about what they think is right.
Yeah.
So the Greeks wanted everybody to worship Greek gods. And Matityahu and his sons didn't. They thought that was wrong. And then other people didn't mind worshiping Greek gods because, you know, they had a lot of mythology and great stories going for them, and it was the thing to do at the time. So everybody has their opinions about things.
Yeah.
You know, and they go and they fight about their opinions and all that. You know, but for the Jews, it really mattered not to worship other gods. They had their God, and that's who they wanted to worship, and they felt very strongly about it. So, you know, what do you think about all these opinions, Bernie?
Uh-huh. So, I believe Eve has trickily brought this up because in the last, I don't know how many years, I've started to talk a lot about my feeling about opinions. That is, I came to the opinion a number of years ago that there are no truths, that there's no right and wrong. There are just opinions. And within Buddhism, we have something called the Four Noble Truths that were supposed to have been said by Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, of course, we don't have that good of a record. So somebody said that Shakyamuni Buddha wrote these Four Noble Truths and said what they were. And basically, what is being said in those noble truths is that we tend to suffer, we're frustrated. And why are we frustrated? Because we think there's a truth. Because we think there is something that we can find that will be constant, that will never change, and that everything has changed. Basically, he was saying that life is just change. That the only thing constant is change. And that we have some truths, or some things that we feel are truths, and so we want them, we want to have them, and we can't get them, and so we get frustrated. You probably heard the Hindu word dukkha, the Pali word. Many times translated as suffering, we suffer, but at least we're frustrated, you know. It ain't going the way, we're not getting the things we want. Or we have things that we don't want. I don't want this lousy finger. This finger is always irritating me. I wish I had a different finger. And I get frustrated. Why can't I have a different finger? You know. So I, a while ago, started calling it the Four Noble Opinions, not the Four Noble Truths, to make it clear that in my opinion, everything you tell me, everything I say is an opinion. So please, one of the things I normally do when I give a talk is say, don't take anything I say as some kind of truth. I may feel very different and say something extremely different tomorrow. But it's my opinion right now. That's what I'm sharing. I share my opinions. And you may have the truth, but I have to tell you that when I hear you talk, even though you're saying it's the truth, and that's right and that's wrong, I hear it as your opinion. Now for me, that was, it changed my life quite drastically, because you can't get angry about somebody's opinion. An opinion is an opinion. It can't be right or wrong. In order for me to get angry about it, I have to think your opinion is wrong, and you're keeping to that opinion, so you are wrong, and you got to change to my opinion, which is the right opinion, or I'm going to beat you up, or I'll go to war. And if you look at wars, many of the wars are because people don't accept the truths of the other. And we have so many truths all over the place. But in my head, an opinion cannot be right or wrong. It's just an opinion. There's no values that you can put on an opinion. They can't be true, they can't be false. They're an opinion. And you've probably been in discussions with people where you state your opinion and somebody says, no, that's wrong. Well, how can your opinion be wrong? It's an opinion. You can have another opinion, and we can share our opinions, and we can discuss our opinions. And that's wonderful. We can have these wonderful discussions of different opinions. But when we get to the place of saying that that's the only right one, just as when Swamiji was saying that there are all these paths up to the peak, if we say, no, there's only one path, man, and I want all, I'm a very religious person, and I want everybody to be on that one true path, otherwise you're all going to be damned, so you all got to come to my path, and if you don't come to my path, I am going to kill you. And it may seem funny, but that's what goes on. That goes on now. It's gone on through all life, as far as, at least that's my opinion. So.
But Bernie, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So let's say up till Copernicus, people were saying that everything circles the Earth, and we're in the middle. We're in the center of everything. And the Bible says that the world was created in 6 days. God rested on the 7th. He created various things.
It's a lot of work. You gotta rest.
A lot of work. And on the 6th day, he created human beings, and he said, rule over this, and he said all those words, so that we, human beings, are the center of creation. So then along came Copernicus and said, oh, no, we're not. The Earth goes around the sun. He didn't even know then at that point what they later found out in the 20th century, that the sun actually goes, that there's in this enormously expanding universe, the sun isn't in the middle of everything. We're this tiny little rock, hurtling into space at about 500,000 miles a day or whatever that is. That's all we are. So are you going to tell me that all those are just opinions and nothing is more true than anything else?
In my opinion, those are all opinions. I was a scientist. I am a scientist. I got a PhD in mathematics. I studied quantum mechanics. I love chaos theory. When I was a kid, that was like 60 years ago. About 60 years ago, I was told that the atom, that there's something called an atom, and that's the smallest particle, and it can't be divided. That's why they called it atom. It means not divisible. And they told that as if that was the truth, man. Little by little, I found out that was somebody's opinion. And then somebody had another opinion, that there is a whole thing going on, man, with the nucleuses and proteins, all kinds of stuff, electrons. And then later opinions, and you named a couple of famous guys that had opinions of how this is all constituted. And then it goes on, and Einstein has another kind of opinion. And each time, whole civilizations took those opinions as the truth. And in the days when the truth was that the Earth was the center, right? People were killed that didn't believe that. And when they started to talk about the sun being a center, the famous people were killed, excommunicated, thrown out of religions, burnt, because they had a different opinion. It goes on and on. From my reading of Einstein, he came to this place that it's all changing, that the same place that us famous Buddhists came to, that that it's basically unknown. That if you can, that anything that you're holding on to becomes a fetter and prevents you from going the next step. And that unknown space is the space of the oneness of life. Because if we're in that non-dual space, that's not a knowing space. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. And if we're in there, we can discover new opinions, not new truths. At least that's my opinion.
So you know what I'm asking, Bernie? What are we acting out of? So I think a lot of people think that they're acting, you have to have an opinion, you have to care about something very strongly. In America where we come from, there's a number of billionaires and the middle class is shrinking and the poorer people are getting poorer. And in my opinion, this can't go on, so I have to do something. So if I don't have, so if it's just an opinion, and then somebody else, you may come and say, well, I'm a rich billionaire and I don't share your opinion. I think it's perfectly fine the way it is. So why are we bothering to act? Why are we bothering to do something if everything is just an opinion?
Yeah, so you're touching into another arena in a way, I think. So I have opinions. And what you're asking is, why act? If everything is just an opinion, why do any actions? I'm halting a little because this is the first time I'm thinking about this. I lead my life, or I try to lead my life through a process of the three tenets of the Zen peacemakers. That is, I try to come to a situation and to deeply listen, not to have any idea of what to do, but to deeply listen and feel what's going on, and bear witness, try to become that situation, and then act. So the actions are not premeditated. I look for the actions that will come out of doing that. For example, I've done this over and over. That's how the Zen peacemakers were formed. I had done work, and this is our second 20 years, so we should be getting into the social action stuff. So we're skipping around a little, but I had done a fair amount, quite a bit of social action work. And 20 years ago, on my 55th birthday, so it's now 21 years ago, I decided I needed to do something else. I needed to hand over what I was doing and to do something. And I had no idea what. So I took these three tenets. I went and did a retreat working on the theme of what should I do next. And I had a particular goal. I wanted to do something that would affect aspects of society that were being neglected. Homeless people, people with AIDS. What in my opinion were different parts of society that were being neglected. And I had no idea what to do. And so I did this retreat, and I decided I'd like to do retreats at places of power, so I chose the steps of the capital of the U.S. in Washington, D.C. My birthday's coming up soon, so my 55th birthday was middle of January, 21 years ago. And it turned out to be the coldest time in 50 years in Washington, D.C. So we sat in a circle on the steps covered with snow. That was an interesting picture, seeing of this snow mound of people sitting, trying to bear witness to what to do next, what to do next. And out of that came the feeling that I wanted to develop a container for people interested in meditation and social action. And that became the Zen Peacemakers, which now is over 100 affiliates around the world, involved in about 20 to 30 different aspects of social action, from all kinds. Even working, one group is working in where was your mother born?
In Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, what city?
Oh no, now it's Slovakia. It's Bratislava.
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 Bratislava. So there's a group in Bratislava that's working with young women, gypsies, who were in the slave trade, and because they were in human trafficking, their families, the gypsy families, don't accept them. So they're working with having those young ladies get accepted again by their families. So all kinds